She's been working for the Big Three over the last year, which is Ice Cube's 3-on-3 league. Of course, they had that offer to Caitlin Clark last year for the $5 million, which I think ultimately worked out as advertising for them rather than actually being serious. They apparently have fired Rachel DeMita for tweeting during the game last week when Caitlin Clark was.
The Big Three League just made one of the dumbest decisions in sports history. They fired their most popular reporter for posting one innocent tweet about Caitlin Clark. Now the backlash is so intense that Ice Cube's league is probably wishing they could take it all back. The internet is absolutely destroying them. Do you think firing someone over a Caitlin Clark tweet was justified or completely ridiculous?
So if you guys ever played 2K, you guys know who Rachel DeMita is. She had a jump shot in 2K. She covered the 2K show on NBA 2K. I believe she's dating Andre Roberson and all that stuff. We just got some news coming out that the Big Three has fired Rachel DeMita after tweeting Caitlin Clark highlights during the same game she was working. So pretty much she was on her phone. She was on the phone on the clock working. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I think I can speak for everybody. We're always on the phone on the clock. Our 9 to 5, I'm on the phone. You guys are on the phone that are watching this video. We're always on the phone. And then you got Stephen A. Smith playing solitaire, whatever that game's called, during the NBA Finals, but nothing happens to him. It just shows you the privilege that certain people have in this world. It just shows you. She's getting fired because she was tweeting Caitlin Clark's highlights on the clock, but you got Stephen A. in the biggest moment of the NBA in the NBA Finals playing a game. Think about that, guys. Think about that. So I'm interested to see like what's next for Rachel DeMita and stuff like that. But hey, it's not her fault that the WNBA was more entertaining than the Big Three at the time.
Well. The Big Three really stepped in it this time, didn't they? Ice Cube's little basketball league just made what might be the most tone-deaf decision in recent sports media history. They fired Rachel DeMita, their most recognizable personality, for the crime of posting a tweet about Caitlin Clark, and now they're learning the hard way that messing with anything related to Clark is like poking a hornet's nest with a stick.
We need to address the elephant in the room, or the elephant that is currently going viral on social media, and that is the news that I was fired from the Big Three. Now, my intention in making this video is just to tell you guys the truth. I don't have a publicist telling me what to say. No one's telling me what to say. I just wanted to give you guys the truth,
Let's start from the beginning, because this story is so ridiculous, it almost feels made up. Rachel DeMita was working as a courtside correspondent for the Big Three on Saturday. She'd been with the league for about a year, bringing some much-needed social media savvy and youth appeal to their broadcasts. Her job was literally to create digital content and engage with fans online.
And I don't want to make this any more dramatic than it needs to be. So with all of that being said, the rumors are true. I was fired from the Big Three, and my team received an email at 11 p.m. on Tuesday with a letter that essentially...
Meanwhile, at the exact same time, Caitlin Clark was making her triumphant return from injury in a massive WNBA game against the defending champion New York Liberty. Clark had been out for 5 games with a quad injury, and fans were dying to see her back on the court. When she came back, she didn't disappoint, dropping 32 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds in a dominant 102-88 victory that became the 3rd most-watched WNBA game on ABC ever. During this historic performance, Clark buried a deep three-pointer that had the basketball world losing its mind. It was one of those logo shots that she's become famous for. The crowd went wild, social media exploded, and basketball fans everywhere were reminded why Clark is appointment television.
Now, I don't want to misquote anything, so I will just let you guys know exactly what that email said. They said, "It has come to Big Three's attention that Miss DeMita was posting on her social media platforms during this past weekend's Big Three games and promoting the competing New York Liberty vs. Indiana Fever WNBA game that was being broadcast at the same time. The league is extremely dismayed and disappointed by Miss DeMita's severe lapse in judgment while performing services for the league, during which time she should have reasonably known that she should have been promoting only league games. The league provided her with unique access and opportunity to be a focal point on national broadcasts, so management was completely taken aback to learn that she was posting about another league's game.
Rachel DeMita, like millions of other basketball fans, saw this incredible moment and did what any normal person would do. She shared it. She posted the highlight on Twitter with the caption, "For those who questioned the hype." That's it. That's the entire crime that got her fired. Now here's where it gets absolutely insane. The Big Three sent DeMita an email at 11 p.m. on Tuesday night. Not a phone call, not a meeting, just a cold corporate email, telling her she was terminated. They said they were dismayed and disappointed by her severe lapse in judgment for posting about a competing league during their broadcast.
Now, this is true. I did send out 3 tweets about the Indiana Fever versus New York Liberty game during the Big 3 broadcast. And again, you guys, I want to be completely transparent. I will show you the exact tweets that were posted during that time. So firstly, to start the day, I tweeted a selfie and I said, "Let's work." And I tagged the Big 3 and CBS Sports. And then I tweeted this highlight 3-pointer of Caitlin Clark, and it said, "For those who question the hype." And that was a tweet that directly came from me. And then I retweeted a Nike basketball tweet. And then I also retweeted when the Indiana Fever won the game. I did continue to tweet about that game, but it was after the Big 3 broadcast.
Let's think about this for a second. DeMita wasn't live streaming the WNBA game on the Big Three's official account. She wasn't telling people to turn off Big 3 and watch the Fever instead. She posted one tweet celebrating an incredible basketball moment, and for that, they ended her career with the league. The level of insecurity and pettiness this reveals is absolutely staggering. Here's a league that's desperately trying to establish itself in a crowded sports landscape, and they're so fragile that they can't handle their employees acknowledging that other basketball exists. It's like they think basketball is a zero-sum game, where any attention paid to anyone else automatically hurts them.
There wasn't any discussion prior to me being fired. However, I didn't hear from anybody. There was no...
But here's what makes this even more embarrassing for the Big Three: their history with Caitlin Clark. Last year, they offered Clark a massive $10 million deal over 2 years to play in their league. They weren't just offering money, they promised partial team ownership, half of all merchandise profits, a documentary deal, and even had Nancy Lieberman lined up as her coach. They went all out trying to land her. Clark turned them down. She chose to focus on her WNBA career and potential Olympic opportunities instead. And apparently, the Big Three has been bitter about it ever since. So when one of their own employees dared to celebrate Clark's greatness, they saw it as some kind of betrayal. The email they sent to DeMita is a masterpiece of corporate pettiness. They said management was completely taken aback to learn she was posting about another league's games. Really? Completely taken aback? By a basketball reporter tweeting about basketball. The horror! They also said she should have reasonably known to only promote Big 3 games during their broadcast. But here's the thing. DeMita wasn't even under contract yet. Her agent was still negotiating terms, and she was working in good faith while they hammered out the details. So they fired someone who wasn't even officially employed yet for violating rules that apparently only existed in their heads. The timing of this whole thing is what makes it so spectacularly stupid. The Big Three is trying to position itself as a legitimate basketball league that deserves respect and attention. But then they do something so petty and small-minded that it makes them look like amateurs running a rec league. DeMita handled the whole situation with incredible grace. She could have gone scorched earth on them, aired all their dirty laundry, and really made them look bad. Instead, she put out a calm, professional video explaining what happened. She took responsibility for her actions, said she wished there could have been a discussion before the firing, and even said she wishes the Big Three nothing but the best. That level of class and professionalism probably makes the Big Three look even worse by comparison. Here's someone who got fired via email at 11 p.m. for tweeting about basketball, and she's being more mature about it than the league that fired her. But the internet wasn't going to let this slide. As soon as the news broke, the backlash was swift and brutal. Basketball fans, media personalities, and casual observers all piled on the Big Three for what was universally seen as a ridiculous overreaction. People started pointing out the hypocrisy immediately. Stephen A. Smith gets caught playing solitaire on his phone during NBA Finals coverage, but Rachel DeMita gets fired for one tweet. The double standards in sports media are absolutely wild. Others highlighted just how counterproductive this decision was from a business perspective. DeMita has over 1 million followers across social media platforms. She brings real value in terms of reach and engagement. Firing her over something this trivial is like cutting off your nose to spite your face. The optics are terrible too. Here's a league founded by Ice Cube, someone who built his career on being authentic and speaking truth to power. And they're firing people for celebrating great basketball. It goes against everything Ice Cube supposedly stands for. And let's talk about the Caitlin Clark factor here. Firing someone for posting about Clark is like declaring war on the most popular athlete in women's sports. Clark has a massive, passionate fan base that doesn't take kindly to people who mess with their favorite player. The Big Three just painted a target on their back for no good reason. The business implications of this decision are staggering. The Big Three is already struggling to build an audience and establish relevance. They need all the positive attention they can get. Instead, they've made themselves the villain in a story that's getting national attention. Every article about this situation makes them look petty and insecure. They could have handled this so many different ways. They could have had a conversation with DeMita about social media expectations. They could have established clearer guidelines for the future. They could have just ignored it entirely since it wasn't actually hurting anyone. Instead, they chose the nuclear option and fired her via email. The fact that they won't even comment on the situation publicly makes it worse. When reporters reached out for comment, a Big Three spokesperson said they don't comment on personnel matters. That's corporate speak for, "We know we screwed up, but we're too proud to admit it." Meanwhile, DeMita is handling this like a pro. She's not burning bridges or going on attack mode. She's focusing on her other projects and moving forward with dignity. That makes the Big Three look even more foolish for letting her go. The freelance nature of sports media makes this story even more troubling. DeMita wasn't some full-time employee with job security and benefits. She was a freelancer working gig to gig, which is how most people in sports media survive these days. One mistake, if you can even call it that, and your income disappears overnight. This sends a chilling message to everyone working in sports media. Be careful what you tweet. Don't show enthusiasm for anything your current employer might consider competition. Keep your authentic reactions to yourself, because someone might decide you've committed a severe lapse in judgment. The irony is thick here too. The Big Three hired DeMita specifically because of her social media presence and ability to create engaging content. Her whole value proposition was built around her personality and authentic reactions to basketball. But apparently, that authenticity was only welcome when it served their narrow interests. You have to wonder what the players and other employees in the Big Three are thinking about this. If they'll fire someone as valuable as DeMita over a tweet, what does that say about job security for everyone else? It creates a culture of fear and self-censorship that's toxic for any organization. The worst part is that this was completely avoidable. If the Big Three had just ignored the tweet or addressed it privately, this would never have become a story. Instead, they turned a non-issue into a public relations disaster that's getting way more attention than anything they've done on the court. They're also missing the bigger picture about what Clark represents. She's not just a basketball player, she's a cultural phenomenon who's bringing new fans to the sport. Anyone in basketball should be celebrating her success because she's making the entire sport more popular and valuable. By firing someone for celebrating Clark, the Big Three is positioning itself on the wrong side of the biggest story in basketball. They're essentially saying they're more concerned with petty jealousy than celebrating greatness. That's not a good look for any sports organization. The business model of the Big Three depends on attracting basketball fans who want more content during the NBA off-season. But those same fans are the ones who love Caitlin Clark and women's basketball. Alienating that audience over something this stupid is self-destructive. You can bet that other media companies are taking notes on this situation. DeMita is talented, professional, and has a proven track record. Someone is going to snatch her up and benefit from the Big Three's loss. Meanwhile, they'll have to find someone else to do her job, probably for more money and with less experience. The league is probably starting to realize they made a massive mistake. The negative publicity from this story is far worse than anything that would have happened if they just let the tweet slide. They've turned a positive moment, someone celebrating great basketball, into a story about their own insecurity and poor judgment. The really embarrassing part is that DeMita's tweet wasn't even controversial. For those who question the hype about Caitlin Clark is a pretty mild take considering Clark had just put up 32 points in her return from injury. If that's considered inflammatory, then basketball commentary has reached a new level of sanitization. The irony is thick here too. The Big Three hired DeMita specifically because of her social media presence and ability to create engaging content. Her whole value proposition was built around her personality and authentic reactions to basketball. But apparently, that authenticity was only welcome when it served their narrow interests. You have to wonder what the players and other employees in the Big Three are thinking about this. If they'll fire someone as valuable as DeMita over a tweet, what does that say about job security for everyone else? It creates a culture of fear and self-censorship that's toxic for any organization. The worst part is that this was completely avoidable. If the Big Three had just ignored the tweet or addressed it privately, this would never have become a story. Instead, they turned a non-issue into a public relations disaster that's getting way more attention than anything they've done on the court. They're also missing the bigger picture about what Clark represents. She's not just a basketball player, she's a cultural phenomenon who's bringing new fans to the sport. Anyone in basketball should be celebrating her success because she's making the entire sport more popular and valuable. By firing someone for celebrating Clark, the Big Three is positioning itself on the wrong side of the biggest story in basketball. They're essentially saying they're more concerned with petty jealousy than celebrating greatness. That's not a good look for any sports organization. The business model of the Big Three depends on attracting basketball fans who want more content during the NBA off-season. But those same fans are the ones who love Caitlin Clark and women's basketball. Alienating that audience over something this stupid is self-destructive. You can bet that other media companies are taking notes on this situation. DeMita is talented, professional, and has a proven track record. Someone is going to snatch her up and benefit from the Big Three's loss. Meanwhile, they'll have to find someone else to do her job, probably for more money and with less experience. The league is probably starting to realize they made a massive mistake. The negative publicity from this story is far worse than anything that would have happened if they just let the tweet slide. They've turned a positive moment, someone celebrating great basketball, into a story about their own insecurity and poor judgment. The really embarrassing part is that DeMita's tweet wasn't even controversial. For those who question the hype about Caitlin Clark is a pretty mild take considering Clark had just put up 32 points in her return from injury. If that's considered inflammatory, then basketball commentary has reached a new level of sanitization. This whole situation reveals something troubling about the Big Three's leadership and decision-making process. Who thought this was a good idea? Did anyone push back on this decision? Was there any consideration of how this would look publicly? The fact that they went through with it suggests a fundamental lack of judgment at the highest levels. They've also created a precedent that's going to be impossible to maintain. Are they going to monitor every employee's social media for mentions of other basketball leagues? Are they going to fire someone for retweeting an NBA highlight? Where does this end? The Big Three needed to be focusing on basketball, not policing their employees' Twitter accounts. They've got games to promote, players to showcase, and fans to entertain. Instead, They're dealing with a self-inflicted public relations nightmare that overshadows everything they're trying to accomplish. This story is going to follow them for a long time. Every time someone writes about the Big Three, this incident is going to come up as an example of their poor judgment and insecurity. They've branded themselves as the league that fires people for celebrating great basketball. Rachel DeMita will be fine. She's talented, well-connected, and now has the sympathy of the entire basketball community. Someone is going to give her an opportunity that's probably better than what she had with the Big Three. But the Big Three is going to have to live with this mistake for a long time. The instant regret has to be setting in by now. They've learned the hard way that in today's social media world, bad decisions get amplified and criticized instantly. There's no taking this back or pretending it didn't happen. They're stuck with the consequences of their poor judgment. This is what happens when ego and pettiness override common sense. The Big Three let their feelings about Caitlin Clark turning down their offer cloud their judgment about a simple business decision. Now, they're paying the price in negative publicity and damaged reputation. Their violence to creases cause everything. Most of the Big Three. It's the reputation of this video. Indus, the Big Three turned a non-issue into a national embarrassment by firing Rachel DeMita over one innocent tweet. Now they're learning that attacking anything related to Caitlin Clark brings nothing but negative consequences. This decision will haunt them far longer than any tweet ever could. What's your take on this ridiculous overreaction? Like and subscribe for more sports drama.